Senator Savino, I listened with great interest what Senator DeFrancisco and Senator Hannan had to say about the wording of some of the legislation, where it might be vague, where there might be holes in the legislation. Is it your understanding that the Department of Health would take this debate and discussion into consideration, and as they go through the process of the 18 months before this program is implemented, they would have the power to make these changes, or where your intent and some of the things that you reacted to Senator DeFrancisco and Senator Hannan, they could do that on their own?
Through you, Mr. President, the answer to that question, Senator Bonacic, is yes.
Okay. Will you continue to yield for a second question?
Yes.
We had about a 3-hour discussion on this legislation in our conference. I didn't speak. But one of the things that came up that I had a curiosity of, this is a cash business we're dealing with. If someone wants to go obtain marijuana, they're going to have to pay cash. So do you have any idea how we're going to properly monitor the cash that's collected so there's an accurate accounting that it's going to be paid to the groups, you know, the allocations of where the money is going to go? Have you given any thought to that? I'm just curious.
Through you, Mr. President, that is obviously of great concern to the state, as we have a proprietary interest in the success of this. Part of the regulations that will be developed by the Commissioner will deal with, and by the Superintendent of Police as well, will deal with safety and security of the facilities, which will include not just the tracking of all of the product, that's what the seed-to-sale model is, but also the tracking of the money, because the state, of course, is going to make sure it gets its excise tax paid. But you were right, you raised the issue of the fact that it is a cash business for the most part, and it makes it, that's what makes security so critically important here.
And I noticed under your legislation that the governor and the commissioner have to give a report every 2 years to this body of their recommendations when they get knowledge of results of how it's going. And, okay, thank you, Senator Savino. On the bill.
Senator Bonacic on the bill.
You know, 30 years ago, I was an assistant district attorney. I'm a law and order guy. You talked about drugs, I said evil. People say to me, marijuana is a gateway drug to heavier drugs. I said absolutely. And to this day, I still believe that to be true. It's amazing what this legislation has done when it's out there with all the publicity. Get so many unsolicited calls. One from a person that works at a substance abuse center. Gateway drug, don't do it. Parents call. They talk about loved ones who suffer from debilitating disease, in pain, with experience with marijuana. They get it. And to pick up a little bit on what Senator Larkin said, is there anyone here doubt if you had a wife that was dying for cancer, or a child with a debilitating disease in great pain, excuse me, and you knew that marijuana worked to ease pain? Forget about a cure. To ease pain while your wife or your child are going to die? Do you think you wouldn't do it? You wouldn't find it and do it? That's what this bill's about. That's what this is about. So, I've come a long way in 30 years. I believe that we have to do everything to relieve that pain of loved ones. And we have to try. It's not going to be a cure. It might not work. But if it works, it's worth the effort. And I want to make another point. In my mind, there is a firewall, a very thick firewall, between medicinal marijuana and recreational marijuana. I don't necessarily agree with the previous senator who spoke to kind of dilute the power of marijuana, like there are other medications out there much more powerful. Because I know from experience that it could be a gateway drug if we go into recreation to the heavier drugs where we have a heroin epidemic and we're fighting it on the back end. So I, for one, have supported this compassionate care bill. I think we have to try, but I, for one, will fight and resist recreational marijuana if there's an attempt to go there. I want to thank Senator Savino. We have checkmates here. We're going to get knowledge of results, and that's a good thing. And there's going to be a budget next year. There's going to be funding requests as we go forward. So this is something to watch. This is something to have an open mind, because as recommendations come from the Department of Health, we can make adjustments, because none of us are pros on how this is going to work out. We don't know. But I believe we got to try. I vote yes. Thank you, Mr. President.